We're Mike and Heather, and we've spent the last 2 years building out and traveling out of our 2013 Ford Transit Connect that we converted into a micro camper van named Appa.
We don't have a traditional kitchen setup, so we figured that we'd go through some of our most asked questions regarding our kitchen, our food, and what we eat on the road here in today's video. On beautiful days like today, we like to utilize the outside because again, we don't have that much space. So when we are not at a campsite and don't have access to a picnic table, which is usually our preferred method of cooking, we can use our van as an outside space. So we have these flip up tables that are easy to cook off of, and we use these when we're boondocking or in places that aren't a traditional camping area that don't have outdoor picnic tables.
The space in here is very small, so whatever you can do outside of the van is definitely a plus. As you can see, space is limited, so we tried our best to make sure that everything was multi-use in at least some sense. So we added a countertop space to the top of our cabinet, as well as a pull-out sliding desktop area. This is great because you can use it as a workspace, but it also gives you additional table space to eat food on or cook. It's been a good space for preparing meals when we don't have other options. Again, given the choice, we always try and move outside of the van, but we're not limited to that when it comes to cooking.
We're gonna go through the 3 different ways that we do cook warm meals. The first being with our camp stove, and we keep everything inside of this cabinet here for cooking. We also store all of our canned food and dry food here. We do have a refrigerator that Mike is currently sitting on that stores all of our cold food and our drinks and all of that, but the main purpose of this cabinet here is just to store all of our gear for cooking as well as food and water. So in here is the camp stove. It's just your typical generic one. It fits up here, it fits on the slide out, and it fits on our boards out here that we cut to the van to make for the little tables to be able to cook outside. We do prefer to use this one outside just because fire, and we try not to have a lot of those inside of our van, but we have used this quite a bit inside. We just always make sure that the vent is on, and we do have a smoke detector and carbon monoxide, but even when it's raining, we tend to still open the doors a little bit just to get a little bit more of extra ventilation. Usually between the max air fan and a cracked door, it's usually pretty good. But we tend to prefer the air fryer when we are cooking inside. This has come in serious handy when we are inside the van. When it is raining, it is very hard to cook warm meals because you don't want your things getting wet and you can't go outside to kind of spread out. So this is probably our favorite kitchen cooking utensil that we have because it's so easy and don't have to worry about a big mess and flames inside your van. Speaking of flames, we do have a third way of cooking. This is kind of the secondary one compared to our camp stove. So with our camp stove, we usually have this one going as well. It's like a knockoff to the jet boil one because those are very expensive and this one was not, but it just sits on top of a fuel tank here, and we usually boil water with that one. So if we're making rice, we'll have it be going there while we're cooking our main dish on the camp stove.
The thing we like about this one as opposed to a jet boil is the jet boil I think comes with a cooking cup, and that's how it's used. This one is just a stove burner, which is nice because we can put our tea kettle on top of it, or we can put a pan on top of it. So it allows us to do more than just boil water, even though that's what it tends to be used most for.
Speaking of tea kettle, we do travel with one. We didn't always, but we got a lot of comments saying that we're going to burn ourselves with scalding water by just using a pot. So we invested in this thing off Amazon, and it has come in handy as well for oatmeal and various other hot beverages that we'll want in the freezing cold that we sometimes get into in this van.
For utensils, we have a bunch of different things that we travel with. Well, actually not a bunch of different things. We try to consolidate down to not have a lot of different utensils when we're traveling. We have a pots and pan set that has been absolutely excellent. It has little measuring cups that are great for filling up with water. It has a pan, a pot, and it all packs into itself, which is really, really great. And it just has been stellar. We also have a multi-use utensil handle. So basically it's just a handle with a lot of different attachments, and it can be a knife, a spatula, a spoon, and that's been really great because instead of traveling with a lot of different items, it's all in one and it packs down into itself in its little container, which is great. And then we also have sporks. They're just your generic camping ones, but we've enjoyed those because less items means more space for other things, and that's something that we've tried to prioritize here in the van. And then the other thing we have are just Yeti cups. We use these mugs, and they are mugs for hot chocolate, they're bowls for cereal and oatmeal. and anything in between. So these have been really great as well.
We also have a windshield, so when you are cooking it outside and can get away with it being a little bit windy, this comes in handy for when you don't want your flame to constantly be going out.
And as far as items to actually eat food out of, we have just the 2 Yeti mugs and then 3 plates, one for each of us and then one to put the food onto. And we don't really need a lot of dishes because the meals we cook are fairly basic and we prioritize cleanup and not needing a lot of extra stuff. So it's worked for us because there's just 2 of us and we try not to make too much of a mess. After going through all of the different spaces and things that we cook with, we figured we would break down some of the meals that we eat while we're on the road. Neither Heather or I are chefs, so everything is pretty simple and easy for most people to do, which is why we enjoy them so much. One of the things that we reach for most often is cereal.
It seems very simple, but cereal really does go a long way, and you can store it in there and forget about it, which has definitely come in handy when we've gotten low on food. We've been excited when we find the bag of cereal crammed in the back of our cabinet. A common thing for camping and picnicking are sandwiches, and there's a reason for it. They're easy and you can really make them with whatever you have lying around. So obviously there's the classic peanut butter and jelly. We do have 2 different jellies because Mike prefers strawberry and I prefer grape. So that's a little bit of a space eater, but we refuse to eat each other's jellies. We've shifted towards eating more vegetarian, especially being on the road, because it's easier to store those type of foods rather than having meats boil in a very tiny space. And if we're moving fast, we don't have enough time to cook it, and so we've shifted towards being more vegetarians for many reasons, but that being a big one.
Those are things that are great because they don't require any heat source to make, which is really easy if you're in a parking lot or if we are at the end of the day and don't want to dig anything out to actually cook. But if we go the next step up that requires boiling water, we have a couple of things that we do with that, and those are always still pretty easy. So with boiling water, we can have oatmeal. Pasta is a big one and probably the biggest thing that we eat on the road because you can do it in so many different ways. We bring along chef sauce, which if you're from the Western New York area, you know is a staple, but we also can just do buttered noodles and then start adding things like cheese and pepper and all sorts of different ingredients to mix it up a little bit.
There's always the camp meals or backpacking meals as well that just require you boiling water and dumping in. Our next category of go-to meals are ones that just require being heated up. So not necessarily boiling water, but already come in a package where you just heat them up. And our favorite of that category are the Indian food packets. And pretty much any grocery store you can find them now, and they store pretty easily. Our favorite are the potato ones, right?
Yeah.
All they require you doing is opening the package and putting them on your stove to be heated, so there's no recipes or anything involved, or you don't have to carry your own spices. It all comes already done, and all you have to do is heat it up. So definitely something that Mike and I are capable of doing, and it's really filling, especially when you cook it with a side of rice. They stay good for what feels like forever, and they don't take up that much space.
One of the other things that we really enjoy eating is gnocchi. There's a couple of different kinds. You can do it in a lot of different ways, but we really enjoy cooking it in our pan, so it's kind of like skillet gnocchi, and it's filling.
You don't have to boil water. All you have to do is just heat up the already packaged meal, and then you're good to go. Another one of our go-to foods is tacos. Similar to the vegan packets and the gnocchi, the meatless taco, there are packets that you can store in your cabinet and kind of forget about until you're ready to cook them, because all you do is add water. So those are very nice and easy and convenient, especially when you're traveling on the road. Good thing about tacos is that you can have them in a variety of ways. So if we don't have tortillas, we can make a rice bowl, or we can make nachos if we have chips and just putting everything on top of it. Another thing that you can make with the same ingredients of tacos are quesadillas, and that's another one of our go-tos as well. It just takes 2 tortillas and a lump of cheese, so very easy and quick to warm up those as well.
Last but definitely not least is just about anything that can go in an air fryer. We use an air fryer almost every day when we're at home, and I don't know why this wasn't in our van when we first started, but we ended up buying a mini one to put in the van after our first road trip down Route 1, and it quickly became a staple. If you're in a parking lot, it's so easy to run into Walmart, grab mozzarella sticks, or for us, the vegan chicken nuggets, or really, again, anything that can go in, French fries, pizza bites. It's absolutely amazing if you're in a parking lot and you want warm food at the end of the day because maybe cereal isn't gonna cut it that night. It's great because you can just throw stuff in there. It doesn't require you to do anything other than wait for the food to be done. Cleanup is usually a breeze, and I can't recommend an air fryer highly enough because we used it so often, especially on the East Coast where you are going to be staying in a parking lot most nights because the dispersed camping or boondocking sites just aren't there.
And we've even used it when we were driving. We plugged it in when we were on the Alaska highway and had to wait 7 hours for a accident to be cleared. So it really just overall comes in handy, and it's probably our favorite kitchen gadget and our go-to means of cooking. The other great thing about the air fryer, because we don't have a microwave, we can also use it to reheat takeout. If we do end up eating out instead of cooking within our van and we have leftovers, it's great because we have our fridge and we can heat them up later that day or the next day for a meal. A question that we've gotten quite a bit is, how often do we go shopping?
I think that we can probably have about a week's worth of groceries on hand at one point, between dry stuff stored in the cabinet and perishable items in the refrigerator. We would be more than comfortable with those over the course of a week, but because we would be in Walmart parking lots fairly regularly, we ended up just going in, grabbing stuff more frequently than I think we absolutely had to. We have always sort of prioritized quick, easy meals that require very little cleanup, and with the things that we have in the van, between the different stove options and the air fryer, we're still able to really eat the same things that we were eating at home.
You don't have to be a chef to survive out on the road. We don't always eat the best and most glamorous meals, but that's what restaurants are for.
Yeah, since we've been home a little bit, we've been going through and trying to answer questions that we've gotten about our van life experience more in depth. If you have any questions about this video or other things relating to living out of a tiny van, leave them in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it, and we hope we'll see you in the next one.
I'm living my best life. I wake up with the sunrise. It does not look a thing like I thought that it would, but I've been getting my steps in, and I sleep with my best friend. It's the best that it has been in a long time. I'm living my best life.